I don't think there's a team that needs a win more on Saturday more than Florida State. No team desperate. No team has more pressure, really, to win on Saturday, I think, more than the Seminoles. Because you look at their path to the college football playoff if they lose. I think it's harder. If they lose to Clemson on Saturday, harder for them to get there than any other team that plays and loses in one of these big games we're talking and looking at here on Saturday. That is why, for me, they need to win more than anyone. I don't care they're playing an unranked team. This is more about the path now for Florida State going to the college football playoff than anything else. And I don't think it's too early. Start looking ahead towards the college football playoff. I know we're late September. Took me forever to get that out there. Late September. A lot still to play out in front of us here over the next 2+ months of college football. But when you start to look at the landscape of the sport and what helps separate teams and making and bolstering their case to be one of the 4 in, I personally, I think the committee does this as well, I look at who you beat. I value who you beat more than who you lose to. Losses are important, don't get me wrong, but also so are wins. Right? We can talk about quote-unquote bad losses, losing to a ranked opponent on the road by a close score. Cool. But if you don't beat anybody, where's the impressiveness? Like with Alabama last year, they had a good loss, quote-unquote, to Tennessee on the road, lose by the field goal at the end of the game, and they lose on a 2-point conversion at LSU in overtime. 2 quote-unquote good losses. That's what Nick Saban was pounding the table for this team last year to make the college football playoff, because they had 2 losses by a combined 4 points. Cool, bro. Who'd you beat? Texas? Whoop-de-doo. Wow, big one there. Mississippi State? Auburn? Oof. Alabama didn't beat anybody. That was my problem and why they did not deserve and evidently did not make the college football playoff last year. It's about who you beat. And if you're Florida State, right now, yes, you have an impressive win over LSU. But here's the problem. If LSU continues to fall, if they continue to slide, or right now, they were preseason number 5, after the loss, and as we go into week number 4, they're sitting there at number 12. If they slide or lose one more game, if you're Florida State, that win looks less and less impressive. And their problem is playing in the ACC. They don't have another opportunity for a statement win. That's why the LSU game is important, and that's why it's important for Florida State to have a 0 goose egg in the loss column. Because their resume is not going to stack up well against resumes of other teams across the country. If we look right now, right? Again, I don't think it's too early to start projecting and looking at the 4 college football playoff spots. I feel very comfortable in saying, very confident in saying, the Pac-12 is guaranteed to get a team in the college football playoff. They are the best conference in college football. I don't care if we're talking about an 11-2 conference champ, and we've never seen a 2-loss team make the playoff. They are getting in no matter what. This team right now has 8 teams, or I should say this conference, has 8 teams ranked in the top 25. They are deep, they are elite. 3 teams in the top 10, 8 teams ranked overall. They are getting a team in the college football playoff, no doubt about it. So one of the 4 slots taken. Big Ten, guaranteed to get a playoff team in. They have 3 teams right now ranked in the top 7. They are elite. So Big Ten, okay, going to take up a spot as well. There's 2 slots of the 4 taken right away. Georgia, got a scare from South Carolina last week. Bounced back nicely in the second half. You look at their schedule, though, going forward. Outside of Auburn, which I think for me is the trickiest game left they have on their schedule, outside of Auburn, there's really no other team you're worried about. Florida, no. Tennessee, no. You name it. Now, in the SEC right now, it's not really that deep. Not really that scary, if you will. Vanderbilt, no. They're fine. So they're going to be 13-0, I think. And that's a 3rd playoff spot now taken up. So 3 spots, Pac-12, Big Ten, Georgia. You look at that 4th spot. If Florida State is 13-0. Boom, it's theirs. It's theirs. They're in. They are in. The problem is if they lose on Saturday, if they go to Death Valley and lose right now to an unranked Tigers team, now all of a sudden you open Pandora's box. Now all of a sudden your lack of a big second win is going to hurt you. Because you look around every other big game that's being played on Saturday. Ohio State, Notre Dame. Oregon State, Washington State. Oregon taking on Colorado. Penn State, Iowa. Ole Miss, Alabama. All those teams, for the most part, have a margin for error and can lose on Saturday because they have chances to make up for it later in the season because they have a loaded schedule. Florida State does not have that luxury. Florida State is right now 3 ranked teams left on their schedule. 18th ranked Duke, 20th ranked Miami, 25th ranked Florida State. 25th ranked Florida. Those 3 teams are hanging on for dear life. Any of them lose over the next few weeks, they're probably out of the rankings. So your now chance for an impressive statement win is not there anymore. And the only one you have so far in LSU right now is slid. And if they lose another game or two, will continue to slide. Whereas you look right now going forward, you look at Oregon's schedule. They still play Washington. They still play USC. They have chances to right now make up for that if they lose to Colorado on Saturday, which I don't think they will. But if they do, let's say the impossible happens, and Colorado shocks the world, goes to Eugene and wins. Oregon, after this Saturday, still has 5 ranked opponents on their schedule. If they win out, they're in no matter what. They can afford to lose on Saturday because if they take care of business going forward, they are in, guaranteed. If Penn State loses to Iowa, but they beat Ohio State and Michigan, Penn State is in. No doubt about it. If Ohio State loses to Notre Dame and then runs the table, beats Penn State, beats Michigan, they're in the college football playoff. If Oregon State loses to Washington State, runs the table, wins out, they are in. Every team, for the most part, has an argument. Outside Alabama, they lose. I mean, they're already done. They're not a very good team this year anyway, but 2 losses and they're really cooked. Every team playing in a big game this weekend can afford to lose and still have everything in front of them and still control their own destiny because they have statement games where if they win, that will make up for their loss. Florida State does not have that luxury. They've already played their biggest game, and the rest of their schedule, having a few teams ranked in the low teens, high 20s, is not going to sway the committee when you're talking about, facing off against other teams for that 4th spot. Like, let's just say, for example, right, here's a perfect example. Let's say if Ohio State beats Notre Dame. Ohio State beats Notre Dame. Ohio State beats Penn State. But for a 3rd year in a row, Ohio State loses to Michigan. And Michigan goes and wins the Big Ten championship. Michigan's in, right? They're the Big Ten champ. They're in the college football playoff. But if you then look at Ohio State's resume, who'd be 11-1, with wins over Penn State, currently ranked 7th, and Notre Dame on the road, currently ranked 9th. 2 top 10 wins for Ohio State at 11-1. I would argue that resume, despite not being a conference champ, but having 2 top 10 wins, is more impressive than Florida State's resume if Florida State is 12-1 with a loss to Clemson and a win right now over LSU. And nothing really else after that. That is where the Seminoles get into a dangerous game of resume comparison because the Pac-12 with 8 teams has plenty of opportunities for their teams to face off and get marquee wins. Big Ten, same thing. 3 teams in the top 7. You have ample opportunities to face each other and get a statement win or 2. The Seminoles do not have that luxury because their schedule is weak now going forward, which is why if I'm Florida State, you could still get into the playoff, right? We've seen a lot of chaos ensue. So it's not exactly like if they lose, their season is over on Saturday. They need a lot of help, and they need help more than anyone else that loses on Saturday. That's why, for me, I think there's no team that's more desperate and in more need of a win in this massive Week 4 than the Florida State Seminoles.